Hello and welcome to another episode of Dumb as Code. I am your host, Chris Franklin. Okay, today's episode, what we're going to do is we're going to start with the absolute basics of Python programming. Okay, if you have any experience with Python before now, today's lesson's probably going to be one you can easily skip. We're going to start with the absolute bare minimum basics of how to get started with programming and how to learn Python. Okay. Now, you should have followed the previous tutorial, which would walk you through installing the latest version of Python, which at the time of this recording is 3.9, and also installing PyCharm, which is an integrated development environment that makes working with Python significantly easier. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. We're gonna run through this pretty quick. The basics are pretty straightforward and easy to do. If you don't have PyCharm installed, you can get to the interactive Python interpreter, which we're going to be using, just by typing Python on a command line. Okay, that'll pull up the interpreter, which will have the three arrows here letting you know that you have it up and running. But I'm going to show using PyCharm how to go about this. So when you open PyCharm, you'll get the welcome window, and you'll have the ability to start a new project. Okay. It'll tell you what version of Python you have going, and what we're going to call this project something like Hello Python, something easy like that. Now, I always suggest using new environments using virtual env. Don't worry about what that actually means right now, but that's the option that you want to have selected here. Okay. And this will create a main.py welcome script for you. This will show you the basics of how to work with Python. If you want to do this, you can click yes. If you don't, click no. We'll click off for now because we don't need it to start with. Okay? Go ahead and click create. It'll launch a window, and this will create your virtual environment, get everything up and running for you. Okay? So let's shrink this down a little bit so we can see everything that's happening here on this screen as well as everywhere else. Okay, so once you get started, you'll see the basic project structure here. You'll have the Hello Python folder. Inside of it, you'll have a virtual environment already set up for you. This is a place where we store all of the libraries that you're going to use, binaries, include files, all of your configuration for your working environment is going to be stored in this folder. You don't need to worry about what's in there right now, okay? What you do need to worry about is down here at the bottom of the PyCharm IDE is a fantastic button called Python Console. So if you click this button, what this will do is this will do exactly what we did previously in the command window, is this will open up your Python interpreter, okay? Now, an interpreter, Python is an interpreted language, which means it's not compiled. It doesn't get turned into zeros and ones that the computer can read. Instead, there is a core Python program that runs that is written in low-level language, and it reads in your code, figures out what your code is supposed to be doing, and then runs that in the machine that it's running on. Okay, so there's like basically a virtual machine running underneath the hood that is the Python machine, and it executes your code for you. It interprets your code on the fly. Because it does this, we can actually interact with that interpreter here on this three-arrow command line. Okay, so we're going to start with the absolute basics. What is Python? How do we interact with it? Well, we interact with it using something called an expression. The most basic expression is a single value. Okay, so if I type in the value 2, for instance, I hit enter, I'll see that the next line it prints out what that expression evaluates to. So the number 2 evaluates to the number 2. If I enter the number 5, same thing, it evaluates to the number 5. Alright, so all we've done now is we've printed out the exact same thing that we've put in there. That's not anything special. But what if I say 2 plus 5, okay? If I put this in, this is a combination of values and operators. That's it. That's all an expression is. We give it operators and we give it values. When we run them, they evaluate everything on the line, and come out with the final value of the expression. So in this case, 2 plus 5 equals 7. All right? So it's pretty straightforward. At this point, all we're doing is we're learning basic math. Now, don't let that scare you. Python is not super heavy on math. The only reason you would ever need really heavy math is if you're moving into a field like data science or artificial intelligence. Those are pretty math heavy. Some game development can be math heavy as well, but most of what you're going to do day to day with programming, automating your daily tasks, that kind of stuff, you're never going to need to use more than basic addition, subtraction, multiplication. Now, when we do these evaluations, there's going to be an order of operations, and that order of operations is just like math's order of operations. In Python, we actually don't call it order of operations, we call it precedence. Certain operators have higher precedence than others. The order of operations tends to go exactly the same as that of what you learned in mathematics. Okay, PEMDAS, if you remember that lovely little acronym. So parentheses, exponents, and then multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. Okay, and so that's the same order of operations here. All you have to learn is what the actual operators look like in Python. So let's look at an example. Let's say we have 2, and we want to say 2 to the 8th power, so the exponent of 2 to the 8th. So we use double star to mean exponent, okay? 2 to the 8 is 256. We then have division, and there are 2 additional operators that come before division itself. Those operators are the modulus, also known as the remainder operator, and integer division or floored quotient, okay? Now, all those mean is if I take some odd number, not odd, but a number that doesn't evenly divide, okay? Let's say I have 25 and I want to find the remainder, so I use the modulus operator, which is percent, of dividing that by 7, okay? What is the remainder if I divide 25 by 7? My remainder is 4, so I can take 7 into it 3 times, and that gives me 21, and then I have 4 left over. All right, so that's all that is. 25 modulo 7 is 4. And then if I take the same number, if I take 25 and I do integer division, which is a double slash, and I take that by 7, I'll get 3. So I evenly divide 25 7 times, 3 times. So those two combined together is divide 3 times with 4 left over. Okay? Pretty straightforward. And then I can look at the straight division. I can divide 25 by 7, and I'll get a float, which is different than the integers that we've been working with. The floating point values have decimal places. Okay. I can do addition, 25 plus 7. Subtraction, 25 minus 7. And that's it. Those are the basic mathematical operators. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy to do. So this gives you an idea of how to actually do basic mathematical operations using the Python operator. So you can use Python as your math calculator if you want to. If you have it installed, just run Python. You can do your basic math. Now, just like English or any other language, there is a proper grammar for how to do these things, and if you mix things up, you're going to start to see error messages that pop up. So you need to be able to learn what does it mean when that error message comes up. So let's say I have 25 plus 7 times. Okay, well that's completely nonsense. All right, we can read that and we know that's nonsense. And if we hit enter, it's actually not even going to let me go because it's saying, no, this is invalid. So if you're running this inside of the interpreter here inside of PyCharm, it won't let you make those really, really, really weird mistakes like that just end in a dangling modifier, okay, or a dangling operator like that. But we could do something like this, minus times 7, and that's wrong. Okay, and it doesn't end in the dangling operator, and it won't let that end in a dangling operator. It'll throw straight into an invalid syntax. It tells you input of this additional operator here is invalid. You can't do that. 2 operators in a row just doesn't make sense. Okay, that's it for today. We're just covering the basic operators, everything you need to know to get started doing very, very basic Python. In the next lesson, we're going to start covering some of the basic data types and what those look like. All right, I'll see you there.